How did a wrong number text lead me to marry a complete stranger? So I accidentally sent a breakup text to the wrong number, and the stranger who received it changed my entire life in ways I never saw coming. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. Tears blurred my vision as I typed out the message I had been drafting in my head for the past 3 hours. After 6 years together, it was finally time to end things. He had cheated again, the third time to be exact, and I was done. I took a deep breath and pressed send on the longest, most brutally honest breakup text I had ever written. It was 3 paragraphs of raw emotion, hurt, and finality. I told him exactly how he had destroyed my trust, how I had given him chance after chance, and how I deserved better than someone who treated my heart like it was disposable. The moment I hit send, I felt simultaneously lighter and heavier. 6 years of my life, gone in one text message. My phone buzzed almost immediately. That was fast, I thought. He must have been waiting for me to reach out, but when I looked at the response, my stomach dropped. I think you have the wrong number, but whoever this was meant for is an absolute idiot for losing you. I am so sorry you are going through this. You deserve so much better. I stared at my phone in horror. Wrong number. I had sent the most vulnerable, personal message of my life to a complete stranger. I quickly checked the contact I had texted. In my emotional state, I had somehow typed the number incorrectly, 1 digit off from his actual number. Mortified, I typed back quickly, "Oh my goodness, I am so sorry. Please delete that. I cannot believe I just sent that to a stranger." The response came within seconds. "Already deleted. But please know I meant what I said. Whoever he is, he does not deserve you. I hope you find someone who treats you the way you deserve to be treated. Wishing you healing and happiness." Something about those words from a complete stranger made me break down crying harder than I had all day. Here was someone who did not know me at all, showing me more kindness and compassion than the man I had spent 6 years with. I wiped my tears and typed, "Thank you. I really needed to hear that today. You are very kind." Anytime, and I mean that. If you ever need someone to talk to, I am here. No judgment. Sometimes strangers make the best listeners. I do not know what possessed me to take him up on that offer, but something inside me needed to talk to someone who was not invested in my life, someone who would not say, "I told you so," or bring up all the times I had defended him to my friends and family. So I texted back, "Actually, would you mind if I vented for just a minute? I promise I will not make this weird. Vent away. I have nowhere to be and nothing but time." And so I did. I told this stranger everything. How we had met in college, how magical the first 3 years had been, how I had caught him cheating the first time and forgave him because I loved him, how it happened again a year later, and now this third time. I told him about the gaslighting, the manipulation, the way he would make me feel crazy for being upset. I told him things I had never even told my closest friends because I was too embarrassed to admit how badly I had let myself be treated. He listened. Well, he read, and he responded with the most thoughtful, compassionate messages. He did not tell me what to do. He did not judge me for staying as long as I did. He simply validated my feelings and reminded me that I was not crazy for feeling hurt. We texted back and forth for 3 hours that night. At the end, I thanked him profusely for listening. "Seriously, thank you so much. I am sorry for dumping all of that on you. You are a genuinely good person for taking the time to listen to a stranger. It was my pleasure. And please reach out anytime. I mean it. Even if you just need a distraction or someone to remind you of your worth." I smiled for the first time all day. "I do not even know your name. Let us keep it that way for now. Sometimes mystery makes things easier. You can just call me wrong number." I laughed out loud. "Okay, wrong number. Thank you again. Truly." That night, I fell asleep feeling lighter than I had in months. Something about sharing my pain with someone who had no connection to my life, no preconceived notions about me or my relationship, felt liberating. The next morning, I woke up to a text from wrong number. "Good morning. I hope you woke up feeling a little better today. Remember, you made the right choice. Do not let him convince you otherwise." It was exactly what I needed to hear, especially since my ex had already sent me 14 texts and called me 7 times, all of which I had ignored. Over the next few weeks, wrong number and I texted every single day. It started as him checking in on me, making sure I was staying strong in my decision, but it quickly evolved into something more. We started talking about everything: our jobs, our families, our dreams, our fears, our favorite movies and books, our most embarrassing moments. He told me he worked in architecture and had recently moved to my city for a new job. He loved hiking, made terrible jokes that somehow always made me laugh, and had a younger sister he was incredibly close to. He had been in a serious relationship that ended 2 years ago and had been casually dating since then, but had not found anyone he really connected with. I told him I was a teacher, that I loved working with kids despite how exhausting it was, that my parents had divorced when I was young and I had always feared ending up in a relationship like theirs, which is probably why I had stayed with my ex for so long despite all the red flags. We talked about deep things and silly things. He would text me good morning every single day and good night every single evening. He would send me funny memes when he knew I was having a hard day at work. I would send him photos of my students' artwork and tell him stories about the hilarious things kids say. My friends noticed the change in me. I was smiling again, laughing again. They assumed I had met someone new, and in a way I had. But I had not met him in person. I did not even know what he looked like. We had mutually decided not to exchange photos or social media information. There was something special about getting to know someone purely through words, through thoughts and personality, rather than physical appearance. Are you ever going to meet this guy? My best friend asked me one day over coffee. I do not know. Maybe. Part of me does not want to, because what if meeting in person ruins what we have? What if he is disappointed? What if I am? Or what if it is even better in person? She countered. I had thought about that possibility. Late at night, I would wonder what he looked like, what his voice sounded like, what it would feel like to hug him after he had been there for me through the hardest months of my life. 3 months after that first accidental text, he sent me a message that changed everything. I have a crazy idea and you can absolutely say no, but there is this architectural exhibition downtown this weekend that I am dying to see. Would you maybe want to go with me? We could finally meet in person, but only if you are comfortable with it. No pressure at all. My heart raced as I read the message. This was it, the moment where our virtual friendship either translated to real life or fell apart. I typed and deleted my response about 15 times before finally settling on, yes, I would really like that. I changed my outfit 6 times before settling on a simple dress and jean jacket. I did not want to look like I was trying too hard, but I also wanted to look nice. My stomach was in knots as I drove downtown to the art museum where we had agreed to meet. We had decided to meet at the front entrance at 2 in the afternoon. I arrived 10 minutes early and spent those 10 minutes pacing nervously outside. What if he took one look at me and was disappointed? What if there was no chemistry in person? What if I had built this up in my head too much? At exactly 2 o'clock, I saw a man walking toward the entrance. He was tall, probably around 6 feet, with dark hair and a hesitant smile. He was wearing jeans and a button-up shirt, and he was looking around like he was searching for someone. Our eyes met, and I felt my breath catch. There was something about the way he looked at me, like he was seeing someone he already knew, that made my nerves settle slightly. He walked up to me, still smiling. Wrong number? I laughed, and just like that, the ice was broken. Wrong number. It is nice to finally meet you. You too. Really nice. He seemed as nervous as I felt, which was somehow comforting. We went inside and started walking through the exhibition. At first, there was some awkwardness as we both adjusted to communicating in person rather than through text. But within 20 minutes, we fell into the same easy rhythm we had online. We talked and laughed and debated about the different pieces of art and architecture. I learned his voice was deeper than I had imagined, that he had a habit of running his hand through his hair when he was thinking, that his laugh was contagious, that he smelled like cedar and something citrusy. After we finished at the museum, neither of us wanted the day to end, so we walked to a nearby coffee shop. We sat there for hours, talking about everything and nothing. At one point, he reached across the table and took my hand. I have to be honest with you, he said, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. I was terrified to meet you today. I was scared that we would not have the same connection in person. But sitting here with you now, I feel like I have known you forever. These past 3 months talking to you have been some of the best of my life. My heart felt like it might burst out of my chest. I feel the same way. You have been there for me through one of the darkest times in my life, and you did not even know me. That says everything about the kind of person you are. He smiled, and I noticed for the first time that he had a small dimple in his left cheek. So, can I take you out to dinner? Like an actual date? I would love that. We started dating officially after that day. And it was nothing like any relationship I had ever been in before. It was easy and comfortable, but also exciting and new. He was thoughtful and kind, always putting in effort, always making me feel valued and loved. We took things slow, neither of us wanting to rush into anything too serious too quickly. But after 6 months, I knew. I knew he was the one I wanted to spend my life with. We were lying in bed one lazy Sunday morning, about 8 months into our relationship, when he turned to me with a serious expression. There is something I need to tell you, and I am terrified of how you are going to react. My stomach dropped. Those words never preceded anything good. What is it? He took a deep breath. That first text you sent me, it was not really a wrong number. I sat up confused. What do you mean? I mean, it was not meant for me, but it was not a wrong number either. I knew your boyfriend. Well, I knew of him. We went to the same college, though we were not friends. I actually saw you around campus a few times back then, though we never talked. When you sent that text, I recognized the details of what you were describing, because I had heard through mutual acquaintances that he had cheated on his girlfriend multiple times. I stared at him, trying to process what he was saying. So, you knew who I was when I texted you? No, not exactly. I had seen you before, but I did not know your name or anything about you. When you sent that text, I did not put it together at first. It was not until a few days into our conversations that I realized who you were, and by then, I was already falling for you, and I did not know how to tell you without it seeming like I had been dishonest from the start. I felt a mix of emotions, confusion, betrayal, but also something else I could not quite name. Why did not you tell me sooner? Because I was scared you would think I had orchestrated the whole thing, or that I was some kind of stalker. I was not. I promise. That text really was an accident on your part, but when I realized who you were and I started getting to know you, I did not want to lose you. I know I should have told you sooner. I am so sorry. I got out of bed and walked to the window, staring out at the city below. My mind was racing. Had our entire relationship been built on a lie? Or was this just an unfortunate complication in an otherwise beautiful love story? Say something, please, he said quietly from behind me. me. I turned to face him. Did you pursue me because you knew who I was? Was any of this real? All of it was real. Every single conversation, every moment we have spent together. I did not pursue you because of who you were. I responded to that first text because you were clearly in pain and I wanted to help. And then I kept talking to you because you were funny and smart and kind, and talking to you became the best part of my day. By the time I realized the connection, I was already in too deep. You have to believe me. I searched his face looking for any sign of deception, but all I saw was fear and honesty and love. I need some time to think, I finally said. I understand. Take all the time you need. I spent the next 3 days staying at my best friend's apartment, trying to sort through my feelings. She listened as I explained everything, and then she asked me a simple question. Do you love him? Yes, I answered without hesitation. Do you believe him when he says it was real? I thought about all the late-night conversations, all the times he had been there for me, all the ways he had shown up in my life. Yes, I do. Then what is the problem? The problem is he lied to me. He kept something important from me for months. She nodded. That is fair. But ask yourself this. If he had told you the truth right away, would you have kept talking to him? Or would you have shut down and pushed him away because it felt too weird? I thought about it honestly. If he had told me after that first week that he knew my ex, that he had seen me around campus, I probably would have panicked and stopped talking to him. I would have convinced myself it was too complicated, too strange. I probably would have stopped talking to him, I admitted. So maybe he did not tell you because he knew that. Maybe he waited until you had a solid foundation, until you knew how you felt about each other, before revealing something that might scare you away. Is that really so terrible? I spent another day thinking about it, replaying every conversation we had ever had, every moment we had shared. And I realized that regardless of how it started, what we had was real. He had been nothing but wonderful to me for nearly a year. He made me laugh, made me feel safe, made me feel loved in a way I had never experienced before. On the 4th day, I showed up at his apartment. He answered the door looking exhausted, like he had not slept since I left. Hi, I said softly. Hi. He looked at me hopefully, fearfully. Can I come in? He stepped aside and I walked into his apartment. I turned to face him and took a deep breath. What you did, keeping that from me, it hurt. And I wish you had told me sooner. But I understand why you did not. And I believe you when you say everything between us has been real. It has been, all of it. I know. And I love you. I am not ready to walk away from this, from us, over something that happened before we even really knew each other. The relief on his face was palpable. He crossed the room and pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly. I love you so much. I am so sorry. I promise I will never keep anything from you again. You better not, I said, but I was smiling. 2 years later, on the anniversary of the day we first met in person, he took me back to the art museum where it all began. We walked through the same exhibition that had been there that day, though most of the pieces had been changed out. Do you remember what we talked about when we stood right here? He asked, stopping in front of a massive architectural model. You said you wanted to design buildings that made people feel something. That architecture should not just be functional, it should evoke emotion. He smiled. You remember? I remember everything about that day. He took my hand and led me to a bench in the center of the room. Sit with me for a minute. I sat down and he turned to face me, taking both my hands in his. 2 years ago, I met the woman who changed my entire life. She was funny and kind and strong and beautiful, and I fell in love with her almost immediately. Every single day since then has been better than the last, because I get to spend it with her. My eyes started to fill with tears as I realized what was happening. He got down on one knee and pulled out a small velvet box. I want to spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you make me. Will you marry me? Yes, I said through tears. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring on my finger, and then he stood up and kissed me as people around us applauded. It was perfect. We got married exactly 1 year later in a small ceremony surrounded by family and friends. During his vows, he told the story of how we met, and there was not a dry eye in the house. He talked about how a wrong number text had turned into the greatest love of his life, and how he thanked the universe every day for that cosmic accident. In my vows, I talked about how he had shown me what real love looked like, how he had been there for me during my darkest time, even as a stranger, and how he continued to show up for me every single day. I talked about how he had taught me that love did not have to be complicated or painful, that it could be easy and joyful and safe. Now, 3 years into our marriage, I cannot imagine my life without him. We bought a house together last year. He has his own architecture firm that is thriving. I am still teaching, and I love it more than ever. Last month, we found out I am pregnant with our first child. When we told our families, his sister joked that we need to tell our kid the story of how we met, and to always double-check phone numbers before sending important texts. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about how different my life would be if I had typed that number correctly. If I had sent that breakup text to the person it was intended for instead of to a stranger who would become my husband. It is terrifying to think about how close I came to missing out on this life, this love, but I did not. Through some twist of fate, some cosmic intervention, I sent that message to exactly the person I was meant to send it to, because sometimes the wrong number turns out to be the right person. People ask me all the time if I believe in fate or destiny, and my answer is always the same. I believe in happy accidents. I believe that sometimes the universe conspires to put you exactly where you need to be, reality, even if you do not realize it at the time. I believe that the darkest moments of our lives can lead us to the brightest ones. That accidental text message broke my heart open in a way that allowed the right person to walk in. And now, as I sit here with his hand on my growing belly, I am grateful for every single thing that led me to this moment. Even the pain, even the heartbreak, even the wrong number. Because it was never really wrong at all. It was always meant to find him.